2014 Kenya National Rally Championship returned for the fifth round, the KCB-Mbenki Nanyuki Rally, with the event taking the crews to the slopes of Africa's second highest summit, Mount Kenya. The Nanyuki round was dropped from the championship last year, but was making a welcome return to the fold in what is turning out to be a fascinating season of competition. The fourth round had seen the crews head to the Kerio Valley and the famous floor spar escarpment, where Ian Duncan had led the opening loop before a puncher put paid to his challenge. It meant the championship had a new face on the winner's rostrum, with Lolldaiga taking his first career win. Tundo's challenge had ended on the very first stage after breaking a front arm, and despite suffering from a high fever, Lolldaiga had held on to secure second overall, and the defending champion had returned to the top of the leaderboard for the title race. The crews arrived in Nanyuki for the fifth round, which would once again take them through breathtaking scenery around Tamau and the Lolldaiga Hills. Tundo was back in his Mitsubishi Evo 9 after a mishap in testing sidelined his Proton S2000.
It's really exciting. It's typical Nanyuki. Lolldaiga's is fantastic. Defending from the last time we were up here, so looking forward to it, although I'm in my old car.
During the interim, Jazzy Chate had been in action on the Africa Rally Championship and had taken his first victory on the Tanzanian round of the series and now heads up the field in that title chase. Alistair Kavanagh returned with his Proton S2000 after missing the last round, hoping to learn more about the car and be able to adapt his driving style. He would be looking for a top 5 finish. As the crews lined up outside the KCB branch in Nanyuki town, thousands of spectators lined the streets to welcome back the event after its 12-month absence. Leading the drivers away in the round-robin system this time would be Azza Anwar, grateful that the first 3 stages were short, as he would have Chaga and Tundo breathing down his neck. Friday's stages took the crews on their first run through the Turako stage, a short 8-kilometre section just outside Nanyuki. The second stage was the only run through Kisima Farm in Tamau. It was a more technical stage on fast-flowing roads across rolling hills. The third stage took the crews back to Nanyuki and their first run through the aptly named Batian View Spectator Stage near the Mount Kenya Safari Club. This was followed by service before the overnight parc fermé at the Sportsman's Arms Hotel in the centre of town. Saturday started with a repeat of the Turako stage before the first run through the longest stage of the event on Lolldaiga Ranch. At 54 kilometres long, this stage had a bit of everything. It first wound through the beautiful mountains on twisty narrow tracks before dropping down towards Burana on flat, fast, open roads. The route then turned back into the mountains to finish close to the start. This was followed by a return to the spectator stage before the only service of the day and regroup. The crews then had to do it all again as they repeated the entire loop before the finish and prize giving back at the service park. Azza Anwar was the first into the opening stage, playing the road sweeping role on this fast opening section. He dropped 47 seconds and emerged 10th overall on the 8-kilometre stage. Such was the pace of the leaders. Chaga went quickest, beating rivals Tundo and Rai by 4 seconds as the trio broke away from the rest of the field, with Onka Rai the nearest driver 12 seconds further back. Onka's rally would sadly end in transport to the next stage after a ball joint issue, and his event was over. We pick up the action on the second section, the only run through Kisima Farm on the northern slopes of Mount Kenya in Tamau. The farm roads were smooth with plenty of fast sweeping bends and blind crests before climbing up to the airfield. At just 8.3 kilometres, every second would count. Tundo quickly got back up to speed on the Evo 9 after spending the last 2 rallies changing his driving style to suit the Proton. He went quickest to take the rally lead by just 1 second from Rai. Lolldaiga Rai blasted through the stage just a second slower than Tundo to overhaul Chaga and move up into second overall. Chaga lost 9 seconds to the leading pair, dropping down to third. On such short stages, every line needs to be perfect. Brake too early or slide too wide, and crucial seconds are lost. Chate was fourth fastest, a further 8 seconds slower than Chaga, but enjoying driving on closed roads and settling in. He wasn't taking any risks, with the bulk of the rally still to come the next day. Kavanagh was quickly getting to grips with the Proton and went fifth fastest, 6 seconds behind Chate. The stage suited the car and he was happy with his progress. Anwar was sixth fastest, which moved him up to 6 overall. With the roads closed, the disadvantage of road sweeping was not such an issue, and he was pushing hard in the old Evo 8. Jasmeet Channa was 7th fastest to hold on to 8th overall, closing the overall gap to Barrage to just 2 seconds. Barrage held on to 7th overall, with a good run on the opening stage but could only manage 10th fastest on this stage, and his position was coming under threat from Channa. Frank Tundo was 8th fastest on the stage, and a place in the top 10 was being hard fought for. He set an identical time to Hardeep Resi, and the pair were separated by just 3 seconds. Resi held on to 9th after beating Tundo on the previous stage, but after 2 retirements in a row, he was being slightly more cautious on this event. Isa Anwari was making a welcome return after missing the previous rounds as his car was being rebuilt. Starting steadily, he was 11th overall as he blew off the cobwebs. The battle for the S-Class honours was being led by Karan Patel after he set the fastest time, 7 seconds quicker than Alistair Keith. He moved up to 12th overall, just 6 seconds behind Anwari. Keith was fastest on the opener, but lost out to Patel on this stage. The pair were now separated by just 4 seconds. However, Keith dropped down to 16th overall, 1 second behind Steve Gacheru. Taito Ashira also beat Keith on this stage to go 2nd fastest, but remained 3rd in the class, 5 seconds behind Keith. Jonathan Soman was back for another outing in his classic Escort, but with only Ramesh Vishram to compete with in the class, he would be focusing on his overall position, fighting with the newer cars all around him. Dennis Mwenda was fastest in the F2 class to once again open up a lead over his rivals. Always on full attack, he would be hoping his suspension problems that had plagued him so far this season had been resolved. Adnan Suhail went 2nd fastest in his hybrid Daihatsu and now trailed Mwenda by 19 seconds overall. Eric Bengi was once again pushing to get the maximum out of his little Toyota Run X, moving up to 3rd in the class, 8 seconds behind Suhail. Leonardo Varese might be leading the championship, but was once again off the pace, over 1.5 minutes slower than Mwenda over 16 kilometres. However, his tactic of waiting for his rivals to brake was paying dividends in the championship battle. The cars now headed back to Nanyuki and the Batian View spectator stage for the first run through the section. At just 3 kilometres long, but with every second counting, crews could not afford to back off. Importantly, it was a chance for rally fans to enjoy the spectacle, as this was the only stage accessible to the public. Tundo set the fastest time, 2 minutes 56 seconds, to head into the overnight Parc Fermé with a 6-second lead. Chaga was 2nd fastest, just a further second behind Tundo, but remaining in 3rd overall, 2 seconds adrift of Rajbir Rai. Rai set an identical time to Chaga to keep a slender grip on his 2nd overall position. The top 3 drivers now led the rest of the field by 40 seconds. Chate could only manage the 6th fastest time, losing further ground to the trio in front, but remaining in 4th overall. Raji Barrage was 4th fastest. This was navigator Jasniel Gatorres' first experience at this level of rallying, and he was doing well to stay on the notes. The pair ended the day up in 6th overall. Kavanagh was 5th fastest and ended the day just 9 seconds behind Chate and 5th overall. The battle for the top 10 remained close, with Anwar, Channa, Resi and Frank Tundo separated by less than 30 seconds going into the end of day Parc Ferme. Patel led Keith and Washira in the S-Class battle, with the trio separated by just 9 seconds after 3 short stages. Mwenda held a 15-second advantage over his rivals in the F2 class, with Suhail and Bengi separated by just 4 seconds in the battle for second. The crews would have a chance to service the cars before the overnight Parc Ferme. After 3 stages, they had completed just 20 kilometres of competitive rallying, but it was enough to get back into the rhythm and make sure the cars were ready for the long stages the following morning. It was another glorious sunrise that greeted the drivers on Saturday morning, with Mount Kenya out in all its splendour. It promised to be hot and dusty as the crews prepared for a long day of rallying. The drivers would leave the Sportsman's Arms Hotel after the restart, having been reseeded overnight, which meant that as the leader, Carl Tundo, would once again be first on the road.
Today's to get through the Lolldaigas without any issues, and I'm going to push through there. So whoever gets through there clean will win the rally.
We'll just try and keep a good pace through Lolldaiga, and I think whoever comes through there the fastest will win the rally. So we'll see how it goes.
Just to do the best we can, to be honest. Yeah. So today we're actually 3rd on the road, so I hope that works in our advantage.
The first stage would be the second run through to Raco. Crews were expected to be faster, having driven it the previous afternoon and had the chance to adjust their notes. Baldiv Chaga went quickest again, 13 seconds faster than the previous day, taking 7 seconds off his rivals, overhauling Rai and moving up into 2nd place, just a second behind Tundo.
Swinging it kabisa.
Tundo was 2nd fastest, holding on to the narrowest of leads, heading to the Lolldaiga stage, which he had earlier earmarked as the place to stage his attack. Rajbir Rai dropped 9 seconds to Chaga and slipped to 3rd, but was still just 8 seconds off the lead.
Wow! Where?
Chate was 4th fastest, beating his previous time by 18 seconds. 8 seconds slower than Rai, he was in a bubble for 4th place. Raji Barrage was 5th fastest, behind his former Kibos teammate as he closed the gap on Kavanagh for 5th overall. Kavanagh struggled after a throttle sensor problem forced him to drive in road mode instead of stage mode, and without full power he could only manage the 10th fastest time. Anwar was 6th fastest but was losing ground to Barrage, slipping a further 11 seconds behind and now coming under threat from Channa. Channa went 7th fastest and was closing in on Anwar, opening up a 26-second cushion to Frank Tundo in the process. Hardeep Ressi started the day in 9th overall, but his rally ended dramatically after sliding wide and hitting a ditch in the long grass. The car rolled, ending up upside down. The crew were okay, but the car was badly damaged and they were out. Frank Tundo lost time when he slowed to check on the crew before reporting the accident to the controllers, who immediately held the remaining crews while safety vehicles and ambulances went to attend to Ressi. After a 30-minute delay, Amwari was next into the stage, setting the 8th fastest time. With Ressi out, he moved into 10th overall. Taito Ashira set the 9th fastest time and was quickest in the S-Class, closing down the gap to Keith. Karan Patel was 2nd fastest to extend his overall lead in the class and open up an 18-second advantage. Alistair Keith was suffering from food poisoning and after very little sleep was off the pace, losing ground to Patel as he struggled through the stage. Anwar Pandya was 11th fastest on this stage. However, problems on the opening stages meant he was fighting his way back up the leaderboard and was down in 17th overall. Mahesh Halai was another driver recovering positions as we get a chance to ride on board with him through the short Tarako stage.
100 fast left, minus medium right, plus stand slow right, do not miss, and opens. Then medium right, do not miss, plus opens. Minus max right over fast jump and 150, fast right.
Eric Bengi enjoyed the short stage and went fastest in the F2 category, beating Suhail by 6 seconds, which was enough to take the class lead by 2 seconds. Suhail was 2nd fastest in the class, but remained in 2nd overall with a new man to catch in front of him. Overnight leader Dennis Mwenda lost over 30 seconds to Bengi and dropped down to 3rd in the class, just 4 seconds behind Suhail. The cars now headed 10 kilometres up the road to the start of the longest stage of the rally, through the incredible Lolldaiga Hills ranch. At 54 kilometres long, this stage would be a tough mental challenge for the drivers. The first 20 kilometres took the crews through the beautiful forests and along the mountain ridges, with spectacular views across the Laikipia Plateau on one side and the Rift Valley towards Samburu on the other. They then dropped down towards Barana, opening up into a fast dusty section before once again climbing into mountain. The stage was closed, however drivers would need to be wary of the abundant wildlife whose tranquil morning was about to be shattered by the roar of rally cars. And Tundo set off on full attack, destroying the competition by 46 seconds to open up a 54-second lead over Rajbir Rai. As we ride on board with the leader, we get a taste of what it takes to tackle these roads at such high speeds. Rai was pushing hard and was second fastest in the Evo 10. He'd started third on the road and in passing the stranded Chagga would have known his second position was safe. Chagga also started on full attack. However, his challenge suffered a blow when he hit a rock and punctured. They were forced to stop and change the tyre, losing over 4 minutes and any hope of catching the leaders. This cost him and he dropped back to 5th overall. Chate was third fastest, but got caught up in Chagga's dust for the last 20 kilometres and was forced to back off. However, he moved up into third, a minute and a half behind Rai. Kavanagh bent a front arm which threw the handling out, but despite also having reduced power with the car in road mode, still went fourth fastest and moved into 4th overall. Frank Tundo was finding his form on this longer stage. It suited him better, moving him up to 8th overall ahead of Channa. Asa Anwar also enjoyed the longer stage, which had a more endurance element to it, and he went 6th fastest to close the gap on Burridge to just 5 seconds. Burridge was 7th fastest, 10 seconds slower than Anwar, but was very happy to have got through the long stage, both the car and navigator working perfectly. Channa was 9th fastest, but lost out to Frank Tundo, slipping back to 9th overall, 14 seconds adrift of the veteran. Steve Gucheru set his first top 10 time of the event, moving him into the final top 10 position. Karan Patel was steadily improving in his old Impreza and was once again fastest in the S-Class. At this point, unaware that his main challenger was out of the rally. He was lying 11th overall.
We haven't had good shocks from the beginning. Now the shock has finally given up. Not boosting much either. But we're pembelezing it. I mean, it's not a big issue.
Alistair Keith was pushing hard trying to make up positions, but his concentration was off and he missed part of the note on this corner, which read medium left over brow, tightens. The car went wide, clipping the bank and sending him into a roll. The damage wasn't too great, but with a healthy lead in the championship and over half the rally to run, the crew opted to call it a day.
Well, we're still quite far ahead. We've still got quite a few points to sort of play with, and thankfully we've still got some time to try and repair the car between now and the safari. So we should be okay, but we'll see how it goes.
Don Smith had been running as high as 14th overall before his engine blew, catching fire in the process. The crew escaped unhurt, but the car will need a lot of work to get it ready for the safari. Jonathan Soman set the 16th fastest time in the Mark II Escort, an impressive drive, just 9 seconds slower than Pandya in 13th and moved him up to 17th overall. Hussein Malik was finding his form and went second fastest in his rebuilt Evo 6, which he rolled heavily on the second round. He was up to 18th and second in the S-Class. James Karimi also enjoyed the longer stage and went third fastest. With the demise of Keith, he moved into a podium position and 19th overall. Dennis Mwenda went 7 seconds faster than Adnan Suhail to regain the F2 class lead by just 3 seconds. Suhail was driving well, not allowing Mwenda a moment to relax as the pair rekindled their 2013 rivalry. Leonardo Varese was a full 2 minutes slower, but managed to beat Eric Bengi, whose engine was missing. However, the championship leader remained fourth in the class, just 11 seconds ahead of Thethi. Thethi's frustrations continued as the mechanics failed to fix the engine miss that had plagued him from the start. He was driving now to finish and salvage as many points as possible. The crews still had one more run of the Batian View special stage before they could get back to service, with Tundo setting the fastest time ahead of Chaga and Rajbir Rai. The trio separated by just 2 seconds. As the cars arrived for service after the long loop, there was plenty of work for the mechanics to do, and for the drivers, a chance to relax and contemplate doing it all over again. The rally was far from over, with another run through the Lolldaiga stage.
Yeah, it was good. It was very technical and quite tough. We got through clean, but it was quite hard work.
We went fairly well, but Flash beat us by quite a decent margin. I think something like 40 seconds. So we're sitting in a bubble for second at the moment, so we're just going to try and consolidate that now.
Unfortunately, we got into Boldy's dust. He was ahead of us and got a puncture, and then we were about 15-20 k's into the stage. Once we caught him after the puncture, it was all the way was dusty, so I suppose we lost quite a lot of time because of that.
Yesterday we had a broken drive shaft which we were able to change on transport, and therefore we didn't lose any time getting into CS2 Kisima. Today, I mean, it's been okay. We've got a good rhythm, and I believe we're doing well.
After a regroup, the crews headed back to the third and final run through the Turako stage. Chaga made it 3 from 3, once again improving his fastest time by a further 7 seconds. He was 19 seconds faster than Chate in the battle for fourth, reducing the gap to 27 seconds heading to Lolldaiga. Rai went second fastest to beat Tundo by 2 seconds, but remained almost a minute down on the leader. Tundo was third fastest, but now held a 54-second lead heading to Lolldaiga, where he could extend his lead even further. Kavanagh had managed to sort out the sensor problem on his Proton and went fourth fastest, just 2 seconds slower than Tundo. We pick up the action back in the Lolldaiga stage for the second run of the long 54-kilometre section, a stage that would have a big impact on the leaderboard. Tundo was first into the stage and once again attacked, emerging at the end with a 4-minute 36-second lead. With just the short 3-kilometre spectator stage to run, he could be forgiven for feeling confident he'd done enough to take the win. Behind him, news was coming in fast that first Rajbir Rai had gone off and damaged his radiator, forcing him to retire, and then that Baldiv Chaga had been sidelined with an alternator failure. As everything stood, Tundo would now leave Nanyuki with a healthy championship lead. Chate was second fastest through the stage and emerged second overall with a comfortable 4-minute cushion to third. After his win in Tanzania, he was on for another great result. Raji Barrage was third fastest through the stage and also moved up to third overall with the demise of Ryan Chaga. Asa Anwar got through without any problems to emerge fourth overall and over 2 minutes ahead of Channa. Channa drove cleanly through the stage, jumping up to fifth. He had a comfortable cushion after Frank Tundo dropped back with a fuel pump problem, which left him in 10th. After missing 2 events earlier in the season, Amwari had driven at just 90%, determined to record a finish, and was delighted to find himself in 6th overall. Steve Mwangi was 7th fastest and moved into 7th in the N12, looking set for one of his best results. Despite backing off and recording only the 13th fastest time, Karan Patel moved into 8th overall. He had a comfortable lead in the S-Class, over 3 minutes ahead of Karimi. Anwar Pandya moved from 14th up to 9th overall as those in front hit trouble, and he was on for his best result. Ronak Shah was fighting back after dropping down the order with mechanical problems, setting the 10th fastest time and moving back to 11th overall. Mahesh Halai moved into 12th overall after a steady drive that had perhaps been a little too cautious. James Karimi was fastest in the S-Class on this stage, but it wasn't enough to get past Patel, and he stayed in second. Jonathan Soman split the S-Class contenders, finishing the stage in 14th overall, ahead of Malik. Dennis Mwenda's run of bad luck continued when he punctured and was forced to stop to change it, losing over 4 minutes and dropping down to third in the class. Adnan Suhail went quickest to take over the class lead with a 5-minute cushion over Varese. Varese was second fastest to move ahead of Mwenda and into second in the class. After a major shake-up in the leaderboard, the crews headed back to the final run through the spectator stage. With just 3 kilometres to go and a 4-minute lead, Tundo could almost have gone through this section in first gear to win, but fate had a different plan.
There's no light. Turn it on. Come on. There's definitely no fuel.
At the start of the stage, his fuel pump failed and he lost over 20 minutes trying to get the car going again. It was a cruel blow after dominating through the 2 Lolldaiga passes, and he should have left with the championship lead. He managed to get going again, but had dropped down to 9th overall. And Frank Tundo suffered from the same problem and was forced to retire. Jazzy Chate could hardly believe his luck. After spending most of the rally in 4th overall, he emerged at the end of the spectator stage with his first Kenya National Championship win. And means for the second rally in a row, Kenya has a new rally winner.
We saw Rajbir first by the road, went a little bit ahead, saw Boldy ahead. So we tried to back off a little bit, knowing that we are, sealing on second, so we shouldn't take any more risks. Yeah, but towards the end, unfortunately, I see Flash has a problem at the start of here. Quite sad, but I mean, I don't know whether he's still come in or not, so I have no idea.
Raji Barrage had come to Nanyuki with a new navigator, hoping to record a finish, but instead recorded his best ever result with 2nd overall.
Jasneel and I, this is the first rally we're doing together. Jasneel's never written notes for stages before. The first time he got into the rally car was yesterday morning, and we're 2nd overall, so that pretty much sums it up. It's pretty fantastic, and I think Jasneel did a fantastic job.
Azhar Anwar once again found himself in a well-deserved podium position after another clean drive in his old Evo 8.
We drive at our best, we take care of the car. Our budget, of course, is low, and God has favoured us today. Sometimes you have to celebrate somebody else's failure.
Jasmeet Chana finished 4th to record another fantastic result that sees him move up to 5th in the overall championship standings. Issa Amwari was another driver delighted with his result, coming home in 5th overall. Steve Mwangi recorded his best result to finish 6th. Karan Patel finished 7th overall, a fantastic result for the young driver, and with it the S-Class win. He still trails Keith in the overall standings, but is now a real title contender. Anwar Pandya held on to finish 8th overall in the ageing N10 and record another top result for the team. Ronak Shah rounded out the top 10 in only his 4th rally in the N12, another young driver steadily improving as the season progresses. Adnan Suhail was another driver to be struck with bad luck at the final hurdle, breaking a drive shaft and being forced to retire. This handed Leonardo Varese the class win, proving that just getting to the end can be enough to win your class. The podium prize-giving ceremony was held beside the service park. Once again, the organisers had laid on a fantastic event with a perfect mix of technical and fast stages run on closed private roads. Jazzy Chate recorded his first career win in Kenya and with it moves into the championship lead after the top 3 drivers all hit trouble. It was a huge boost for the Kisumu driver and should give him more confidence heading into the remaining rounds. So a quick look at the tables, and the main championship has been shaken up at the top, with Chate holding a slender lead over Chaga. Tundo drops to third after luck robbed him of a chance to move into the lead, and Rajbir Rai is just 6 points further back, but with the top four separated by just 40 points, this championship is one of the most exciting in years. Alistair Keith still holds a comfortable 80-point advantage at the top of the table, but needs to make sure of a finish on the remaining rounds. Karan Patel moves ahead of Njogu and is definitely the revelation in this year's title battle. Varese extends his lead in the F2 category with a steady, consistent approach. Mwenda shares third with Nadim Khanna. His do-or-die approach might not be helping his title defence, but certainly entertains the crowds. The next round of the championship is the Safari Rally. Forming part of the Africa Rally Championship, it's the longest rally of the season and the event whose trophy every driver wants their name on. We can expect a host of international entries from across Africa to come and do battle with Kenya's best. Expect more closed roads and spectacular rally action, with the crews having a 2-month break to rebuild and prepare for the greatest rally on the continent. We'll see you there.